You know that feeling when you're standing at the edge of something that could either save you or destroy you. When one moment, one decision, or one person could change everything. That's where I was the night Marcus Chen moved into my apartment. I thought I was just getting a roommate. I had no idea I was inviting in the person who would show me what it truly means to be seen. This is the story of how my straight roommate, sleeping with his door open, his shirt off, his guard down, became the person I couldn't imagine my life without. But getting there, that was the hardest, most beautiful journey I've ever taken. My name is Jamie Sullivan, I'm 26 and this is my truth. The rejection email from the gallery came on a Tuesday afternoon, the same day my landlord raised my rent by $400. I stared at my laptop screen in my tiny Brooklyn studio, watching the cursor blink like a heartbeat. We regret to inform you that your portfolio does not align with our current exhibition needs. Translation: you're not good enough. Your art isn't good enough, your dreams aren't good enough. I'd heard it before, every queer artist in New York had. But this time, with rent due and my savings running dry, it hit differently. I needed a miracle, or at least a cheaper apartment. That's when I saw Marcus's message reply to my Craigslist ad. "Hey, I'm Marcus, 27, software engineer, just moved to NYC. Clean, quiet, respectful of space. I work long hours, so I'm rarely home, looking for something ASAP. When can I see the place?" It sounded normal, refreshingly normal. No weird vibes, no red flags. After weeks of sketchy messages and strange people, this one felt safe. We arranged to meet the next day. When Marcus arrived, I wasn't ready for how he'd fill the doorway. Tall, maybe 62, with broad shoulders that stretched his navy blue shirt unfairly well. His black hair was a little messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. And when he smiled, everything around him seemed lighter. "Jamie," he said, reaching out his hand, his grip was warm and confident. "Thanks for meeting me on short notice." "Of course," I replied, trying not to sound nervous. "Come on in." He looked around, his eyes scanning the space with genuine interest. "It's perfect," he said. "Way better than the last few I saw. One guy was literally smoking inside during the tour." I laughed. "Yeah, the bar's pretty low out there." As I showed him around, the kitchen with its vintage tiles, the narrow hallway, the small bedroom that would be his, I caught myself stealing glances. There was something different about Marcus. He asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully, and never once seemed uncomfortable about the small space or my art scattered around. Then he noticed the canvases stacked against the wall. "Wait, are these yours?" he asked, stepping closer. My chest tightened. These were pieces about queer identity, about me. This was always the test with straight guys. Would he get awkward, laugh it off, pretend not to notice? But Marcus just looked quietly, really looked. "These are incredible," he said finally. "The way you use color, it's like you're painting emotions instead of just images." I blinked, stunned. "That's exactly what I'm trying to do," I admitted. He turned back to me with that warm smile. "You're really talented, Jamie." No awkwardness, no fake allyship, just honesty. Something in my chest loosened, tension I didn't even know I was holding. "So about the room," I began, but he cut me off gently. "I'll take it," he said. "If you'll have me as a roommate, I can move in this weekend." Marcus showed up that Saturday with barely more than 2 suitcases, a few boxes, and a framed photo of him with his parents, all 3 smiling happy. "Traveling light," I joked. "Fresh start," he said softly. "Left a lot behind in Seattle." There was weight in his voice I didn't ask about. Everyone who came to New York was either running towards something or away from something. That first night we ordered Thai food and sat on the fire escape, watching the sunset burn over Brooklyn rooftops. He talked about his new job at a fintech startup, stressful, exciting, full of pressure. I told him about my art, my dreams of a solo show, and the constant grind of freelance work to survive. "What's it like," he asked suddenly, "being an artist in New York?" "Terrifying and magical," I said honestly. "Some days I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, other days like I'm a fraud just pretending to belong." "People like you should make it," he said quietly. "The world needs what you have to say." His sincerity hit me harder than I expected. Thanks, Marcus, I whispered. He smiled, and for what it's worth, I'm glad I found your ad. I think we're gonna be good friends. Friends. Right, I could do friends. The first week we found our rhythm. Marcus left for work every morning at 7:30, hair still damp from the shower, smelling faintly like cedarwood and something clean I couldn't name. I spent my mornings designing, my afternoons painting. He'd come home around 7, sometimes later, always apologizing for being loud, even though he never was. We share dinner, laugh about the city, talk about everything and nothing. He was considerate, tidy, thoughtful. He'd leave little notes, bought more coffee, the brand you like. He never complained about my late-night painting or the quiet music that filled our small apartment. But still, there was something else. Something I couldn't ignore, no matter how hard I tried. Marcus slept with his door open. Not just slightly cracked, fully open. And the way he slept, it was like something out of a painting. He'd be sprawled across the bed, one arm resting above his head, his body relaxed, his breathing steady. He wore nothing but a pair of gray boxer briefs that left very little to the imagination. The light from the street outside would spill across his chest, tracing the lines of muscle and shadow like an artist's brush. The first time I saw him like that, it was 2 in the morning. I was half asleep, heading to the bathroom when I froze in the hallway. My mouth went dry, my heart started doing somersaults. I forced myself to look away, to keep walking, to not be that roommate who stared. But it kept happening. Every night, his door open, his body lit by the faint city glow like some kind of test of my willpower. I told myself it meant nothing. Straight guys were often just comfortable. They didn't think about how it might look or what it might do to someone watching. Maybe he'd grown up with brothers or spent too much time in locker rooms. It wasn't about me. At least that's what I kept telling myself. Still, I started taking melatonin just to fall asleep faster. Because those late-night bathroom trips had become small exercises in restraint. 3 weeks into our new arrangement, everything shifted. It was a humid Friday night in late June. I was working on a new painting, an abstract piece about longing and distance, when Marcus came home early. He looked exhausted. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled, shadows under his eyes. "Rough day?" I asked, setting down my brush. "Rough week," he corrected, dropping onto the couch with a sigh. "The project I'm leading is falling apart, my boss is on my back, and my ex just got engaged." The last part came out bitter, quiet, like he hadn't meant to say it. "Oh, Marcus," I said softly, moving to sit beside him, close but not too close. "I'm sorry. We broke up 6 months ago, I shouldn't care," he muttered, rubbing his face. "But apparently I do, which just makes me feel pathetic." "You're not pathetic," I said, "feelings don't follow timelines." He gave a humorless laugh. "She said I was too closed off, too afraid to really let her in. Maybe she was right." "Or maybe," I said gently, "you just weren't right for each other. That doesn't mean you're broken." He looked at me then, really looked, and something in his expression made my breath catch. "How are you so good at this?" he asked, "at saying exactly what someone needs to hear?" "Practice," I said quietly. "I've had plenty of experience with heartbreak and self-doubt." He tilted his head, curious. "Comes with being gay." I smiled faintly. "Comes with being human, but yeah, being gay adds some extra layers sometimes. When the world keeps telling you you're different, you start to believe it. You start to wonder if maybe you don't deserve the same happiness other people get." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You do deserve it, Jamie, all of it." The way he said my name, the softness, the conviction, it did something to me. A warmth spread in my chest, slow and deep, like watercolor bleeding into paper. "So do you," I whispered. We sat there in silence, the air between us charged with something unspoken. Finally Marcus stood and stretched. "I'm gonna shower then crash early," he said. "Thanks for listening, you're a good friend." That word again, friend. After he disappeared into the bathroom, I tried to focus on my painting, but my thoughts kept replaying our conversation. The vulnerability in his voice. The way he'd looked at me, like I was someone worth knowing. An hour later, I was still painting when he came out. His skin was flushed from the shower, and he was wearing only those same gray boxer briefs. He paused in the hallway. "Still working?" he asked. "Can't sleep," I admitted. Want company. Just two simple words, but they felt heavy, full of something unnamed. I nodded. Marcus grabbed 2 beers from the fridge and sat on the couch, watching quietly as I painted. Usually, I hated being observed while I worked, it made me self-conscious, but with him, it felt different. Natural. Like he belonged there in my space, in my life. What's this one about? He asked after a while. I stepped back to look at the canvas, deep swirls of blue and gold reaching for each other but never quite touching. Wanting something you can't have, I said softly, the ache of almost. Marcus didn't answer right away. When I finally looked over, he was staring at the painting with an expression I couldn't read, something between recognition and longing. Yeah, he whispered finally, I know that feeling. The summer heat hit New York like an uninvited guest, turning our apartment into an oven no matter how many fans we ran. Marcus started sleeping lighter, sometimes just in his boxers, sometimes under only a thin sheet. And I became an expert at pretending not to notice. At looking away. At lying to myself about what I was feeling. Then, in July, came my first real breakthrough. A small gallery in the West Village agreed to include 3 of my pieces in a group exhibition. It wasn't huge, but it was real. When I got the email, I screamed. Marcus ran out of his room panicked. What happened? I got in, I shouted, holding up my laptop. The Morrison Gallery, they want my work. His face lit up with a smile that could have powered the whole city. Jamie, that's incredible. Before I could react, he pulled me into a hug, warm, solid, grounding. He smelled like cedarwood and sleep. For a moment, I let myself melt into it, memorizing the feeling of his arms around me, the sound of his heartbeat. When we finally pulled apart, we both looked flustered. Sorry, he said quickly, I'm really happy for you. Don't apologize, I smiled, I needed that. 3 weeks from now, right, I wouldn't miss it, he said, I'll be your hype man. Preparing for the show consumed me. I spent days perfecting details, reworking colors, doubting every choice. Marcus became my balance. He'd come home, see me spiraling, and just take over. He'd order food, pull the brush from my hand, make me eat. Then he'd listen, really listen, as I explained my ideas. His questions were always thoughtful, insightful. He saw me, not just my art but me. One evening, about a week before the opening, I found him standing quietly in front of a familiar painting, the one I'd made that night he told me about his ex. The one about wanting something you can't have. This one's my favorite, he said softly, not turning around. There's something about it, it just gets me. I stood beside him, studying the painting through his eyes. Yeah, I said, it's like these 2 shapes so close they almost touch, but something keeps them apart. He nodded slowly, eyes still on the canvas. You can feel the pull between them, he murmured, but something stops them. Fear, maybe, or circumstances. You captured that tension perfectly, the almost of it all. Marcus's voice was quiet, thoughtful. His words hit me so hard my chest ached. That's exactly it, I said softly. He looked at the painting again, eyes tracing the brushstrokes. Have you ever felt that kind of longing? The question hung in the air like electricity. I could have lied, should have lied, but something about the vulnerability in his voice made me honest. Yes, I whispered, I'm feeling it right now. Marcus turned to me, expression unreadable. Is it someone I know? My heart stopped. This was dangerous territory, but I couldn't help it. What if it is? I said quietly. He held my gaze. For a moment, the air between us thickened, charged, fragile. I saw the way his throat moved when he swallowed, the flicker in his eyes, and then his phone rang, slicing through the silence. His boss's name lit up the screen. I have to take this, he said. Of course, I replied. He disappeared into his room, and I was left standing in front of my painting, wondering if I'd imagined everything that just happened. The night of the gallery opening, I was a mess of nerves. I changed outfits 4 times before finally settling on black jeans and a dark green shirt, the one my friend Priya once said made my eyes stand out. When I walked out of the bathroom, Marcus was waiting by the door and I almost forgot how to breathe. He'd traded his usual tech bro look for dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, hair perfectly styled. He looked devastating. You look great, he said, and for a second I swore his voice sounded a little strained. Thanks, so do you. The subway ride to the West Village was torture. We stood close, pressed together by the crowd, his arm brushing mine every time the train lurched. I could smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating off him, and it took every ounce of self-control not to lean in. At the gallery, Marcus was my biggest cheerleader. He talked to everyone, spoke about my work like he'd memorized every word I'd ever said about it. He was charming, confident, and proud of me. Your roommate is gorgeous, Priya whispered, sliding up beside me with a glass of champagne. Please tell me you've at least thought about it. He's straight, Priya. I'm not so sure about that, she said, nodding toward him. I followed her gaze and found Marcus already looking at me. The way he smiled, soft, private, meant only for me, sent heat crawling up my neck. That's not how straight guys look at their male roommates. Later that night, high on adrenaline and compliments, Marcus and I decided to walk home. The summer air was thick and alive, music from open bars, city lights flickering on wet pavement. Tonight was amazing, Marcus said. Watching people react to your work, Jamie, you were glowing. I couldn't have done it without you, I admitted. You've been more than a roommate. He stopped walking. Is that what we are? He asked quietly, just roommates. I froze. What? He turned to face me, his expression uncertain, vulnerable. I can't stop thinking about what you said about wanting something you can't have. My heart was racing so fast I could barely speak. Marcus, I need to tell you something. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing. That night I told you about my ex. I lied. She did get engaged, but that's not why I was upset. Then why? Because I realized I wasn't heartbroken, I was relieved, and that scared me because it meant admitting something I've been running from for years. What are you saying? I'm saying that for the past 2 months I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. I sleep with my door open because some part of me hopes you'll look. Every time you talk about your art or just exist near me, I feel something I've never let myself feel before. The world stopped. But you're straight. He gave a small, shaky laugh. Yeah, that's what I told myself for 27 years. I dated women, ignored what I felt for my college roommate, pretended it was admiration. But now I'm standing in front of someone who makes me want to stop lying to myself. He looked at me, terrified, raw. I'm scared, Jamie, scared that if I reach for this, I'll lose the best friend I've ever had. Tears stung my eyes. You won't lose me. How can you know that? Because I've been falling for you since the day you walked into my apartment and actually saw me. Because that painting about longing, it's about you, Marcus. It's always been about you. His breath caught. Really? Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. For one breathless second he froze and my heart cracked, but then he cupped my face and kissed me back. Desperate, hungry, real. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, he whispered, I've never done this before, I don't know what I'm doing. Neither did I the first time, I said softly. We'll figure it out together. What if I can't give you what you need? I met his eyes. Marcus, I don't need perfect, I just need honest. Can you do that? He nodded slowly. Yeah, I can do that. We walked home hand in hand, two people stepping into something undefined, terrifying, and beautiful. Back at the apartment, we stood awkwardly in the middle of the living room. So Marcus said. So I echoed. I want to do this right, he said finally. I want to take you on real dates, learn how to be a good boyfriend. Is that what we're calling this? The word boyfriend sent warmth flooding through me. If you want to, I whispered. I do. He stepped closer, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture so tender it made my throat tighten. But fair warning, he said softly, I'm probably going to be terrible at this at first. I'm going to panic and overthink, maybe even freak out occasionally. I can handle that, I promised. He smiled faintly. Can you handle me being neurotic about my art and self-worth? I laughed, already handle that daily. He chuckled, then his expression turned serious. One more thing. My stomach dropped. What is it? I'm not out to anyone, my family, my coworkers, they all think I'm straight. I need time to figure that out. I nodded slowly. I understand. And I meant it. Coming out was personal, it couldn't be rushed, and it definitely couldn't be forced. We'll take this at whatever pace you need. Relief washed over his face. Thank you. He kissed me again, softer this time, a promise, not a question. When we finally pulled apart, it was late. We both had responsibilities in the morning. Good night, Jamie, Marcus said, heading toward his room. Good night, I paused, smiling faintly. Hey, Marcus, maybe close your door tonight for both our sakes. He grinned, that devastating, transformative smile I loved. Where's the fun in that? The next few weeks existed in a kind of bubble, soft, secret, and dangerously beautiful. Marcus was tentative at first. Every kiss felt like he was learning a new language, every touch carefully measured, but he was earnest, attentive, and achingly sincere. We curl up on the couch after he got home from work, his head in my lap, my fingers running through his hair as we talked about nothing and everything. In the mornings, he'd kiss me goodbye before work, quick, sweet, like he was practicing. Sometimes he'd leave notes on the fridge. Thinking about you. Can't wait to come home. It was domestic, lovely, everything I'd ever wanted. But slowly, tiny cracks began to show. Marcus was still completely closeted at work. When coworkers asked about his dating life, he'd deflect, too busy, no one special. When his parents called on Sundays, he'd take the call in his room with the door shut, his voice carefully neutral, talking about weather, work, anything but us. I understood, I really did. Coming out is terrifying, especially when you've spent your entire life performing straightness. But understanding didn't stop it from hurting. It hurt when he tensed up if I brushed against him in public. It hurt when he introduced me as just his roommate. Give him time, Priya said over coffee one afternoon. He's literally rewriting his entire identity. That doesn't happen overnight. I know, I sighed. I want to be patient, but it's hard being someone's secret. Have you talked to him about it? I shook my head. I don't want to pressure him, he's already dealing with so much. Jamie, she said gently, your feelings matter too. Relationships need communication, especially when it's this complicated. She was right. But I was terrified that if I pushed too hard, Marcus would retreat back into the safety of his old life and away from me. The first real fight happened on a humid Saturday night in late August. Marcus's company was hosting a rooftop summer party in Manhattan. He'd been stressed all week, packing, distracted. I assumed it was work politics until the night of the party. So what time should I be ready? I asked while he was buttoning his shirt. He froze mid-motion. Ready for what? The party, I said. You said it's tonight. Right, yeah, thing is, he wouldn't meet my eyes. It's a work thing, pretty boring, you wouldn't have fun. The realization hit like ice water. You don't want me to come. It's not that, he said quickly. It's just, I don't want anyone at work knowing about us yet. Because you don't want them thinking you're gay. He flinched at the word. It's complicated, okay? The tech world pretends to be progressive, but I'm already the new guy. I don't want to be the new gay guy too. So I just stay home while you go pretend you're straight, my voice cracked. Maybe mention a girlfriend you don't have. That's not fair. No, I snapped. What's not fair is being with someone who's ashamed of me. I'm not ashamed of you, he said, voice rising. I'm scared of how people will look at me differently, how my family will react, how my whole life will change. Your life has already changed, I shot back. You're already living a lie every day you pretend to be someone you're not. At least I had a choice in that lie, he said quietly. You want me to come out on your timeline because you're comfortable, but you don't know what it's like to lose everything. The words hung between us, sharp, heavy, cruel in their truth. You're right, I said finally, grabbing my jacket. I don't know what that's like because the people who couldn't accept me, I let them go. It hurt, but I survived. I built a life where I don't have to hide who I am or who I love. Where are you going? Somewhere I don't have to be anyone's secret. I left before he could answer, my chest tight with anger and heartbreak. I ended up at a queer bar in the East Village, loud music, rainbow lights, and strangers who didn't need me to hide. Priya met me there an hour later and pulled me into a hug that finally broke me. I love him, I said into her shoulder, voice trembling, but I don't know if love is enough when he can't even admit what we are. Love is necessary, she murmured, but so is self-respect. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. When I got home around 2 a.m., Marcus was waiting on the couch, still in his party clothes, eyes red-rimmed. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "You were right about all of it." I sat beside him exhausted. "I'm sorry too, I shouldn't have pushed. Your coming out is yours." He shook his head. "No, you should push. You should demand to be treated like you matter, because you do, you matter more than anything." His voice cracked. "The party was awful. I couldn't stop thinking about you. When my boss asked if I was seeing anyone, I almost told the truth." "But you didn't." "I didn't," he admitted quietly. "And I felt like a coward. You deserve better than someone too scared to claim you." I took his hands. "I don't need you to claim me, Marcus. I need you to figure out who you are and what you want. And I need to know if I'm part of that or just a secret you'll one day regret." He squeezed my hands, eyes glistening. "You're not a secret, you're the most real thing in my life." He took a slow breath, the kind that stretches a heartbeat into forever. "Dad, there's something you should know," he said quietly, voice trembling but steady enough to cut through the room. His father looked up from his coffee. "What is it, son?" Marcus's eyes flicked to mine just for a moment, but it was enough to see everything swirling behind them. Fear, love, and the kind of courage that comes only when you've decided to stop running. "I'm seeing someone," he said finally, "someone important to me." His mother smiled gently. "That's wonderful, dear. Who is she?" The word she hung in the air like a blade waiting to drop. Marcus swallowed hard. "It's not a she." Silence. Even the city noise outside seemed to stop. The hum of traffic, the faint chatter from the street gone. It was just us, frozen in that tiny space between truth and reaction. His father blinked once. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Marcus's voice cracked, "I'm with someone. His name is Jamie. We live together and I love him." His mother's hand flew to her mouth. His father's jaw tightened, the coffee cup trembling slightly in his grasp. I wanted to disappear, to give them space to understand, but Marcus reached across the table and found my hand. His fingers were shaking, but he didn't let go. "This is my truth," he said softly, "and I'm done hiding it." His father pushed back his chair slowly, standing with the stiffness of someone whose world just shifted. His mother's eyes filled with tears, not anger, just shock, confusion, maybe even pain. No one said a word. The only sound was the faint tick of the clock on the wall. Finally his mother whispered, "Jamie, you make him happy." I swallowed hard and nodded. "More than anything." She looked at Marcus. "Then that's all I need to know." His father didn't speak for a long time. He just looked at us, really looked, the way a man does when he's trying to unlearn years of silence. Then he sighed and sat back down. "I don't understand it," he said, "but he's my son. I'll try." Marcus broke then, shoulders shaking, tears slipping down his face as he gripped his father's hand. "That's all I needed, Dad, just try." His mother reached across and took both our hands. "You're still my boy, and you," she said to me, smiling faintly through tears, "take care of him." I nodded again, unable to speak. Marcus looked at me, really looked, and in that moment I saw something I hadn't seen in him before. Peace. Not the kind that comes from being accepted, but the kind that comes from finally accepting yourself. When they left that night, Marcus closed the door and just stood there, breathing like he was learning how for the first time. Then he turned to me, eyes wet, voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I'd lose them," he said, "but I didn't." I smiled. "You didn't lose anyone, you just found yourself." He pulled me close, resting his forehead against mine. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not giving up on me." And for the first time since we met, since that night when he was just my straight roommate, I felt the world settle into place. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Marcus was shaking as he lowered the phone. "He wants to try Jamie," he whispered, disbelief softening his voice. "It's not acceptance, but it's something." I stood up and wrapped my arms around him, feeling the tremor in his body as his tears soaked into my shirt. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The city hummed outside our window, car horns, distant laughter, life going on, but in that small apartment, time seemed to hold its breath. "It's a start," I murmured against his hair, "a really good start." Marcus nodded, clinging to me like the world had finally stopped spinning quite so fast. "I never thought he'd," his voice broke, "I never thought he could change." I pulled back just enough to look at him. His eyes were red, but they were brighter than I'd ever seen them. He's not there yet, I said softly, but he's moving, and sometimes that's enough. Marcus exhaled, a shaky, fragile laugh escaping his chest. You really think he'll come around? I think he already has, I said, he just doesn't know it yet. He smiled then, small at first, then wide enough to reach his eyes. It was the same smile that had made me fall for him in the first place, the one that said hope is still alive even when everything else feels broken. We stood there in the fading light of our living room, holding on to each other like the world outside didn't matter. And for the first time in months, maybe years, Marcus didn't look afraid. He just looked free. Overcome with emotion, Marcus began attending therapy sessions with his parents. Sometimes together, sometimes alone. It was slow, painful work full of tears, confusion, and small breakthroughs. But little by little, his father began to soften. By Christmas, when his parents invited us both to visit them in Seattle, I knew something had changed. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Marcus's father still seemed unsure, awkward in his kindness, but he tried. He asked me polite questions about my art, didn't flinch when Marcus took my hand at the dinner table, and even thanked me for coming. Marcus's mother, though, she had embraced us completely. One afternoon, she pulled me aside. Thank you, she said softly, for loving my son, for helping him become who he's meant to be. He makes it easy, I replied, he's remarkable. She smiled through tears. So are you, you've both taught me what love really looks like. On Christmas morning, his father gave us a framed photo of Marcus as a child, smiling in his mother's arms. Underneath, he had written in careful English, "My son then and now, always loved." Marcus broke down crying, and for the first time his father pulled him into a brief but real hug. "I'm trying," he whispered. "It wasn't perfect, it would probably never be, but it was real." When we returned to New York on New Year's Eve, the city was alive with fireworks. Marcus wrapped his arms around me from behind as we watched the skyline glow. "A year ago," he said, "I was living half a life, too scared to reach for what I really wanted. And now," he pressed his forehead to mine, "now I'm standing here with the love of my life, and I've never felt more like myself." I smiled. We changed each other. He kissed me softly. "You taught me that love is worth the risk." Then he pulled out a small box. My heart stopped. "Relax," he laughed, "it's not a ring, not yet." Inside was a silver key on a chain. "It's for a studio in Brooklyn," he said. "A space for you to paint. I signed the lease last month, it's yours if you want it." Tears filled my eyes. "Marcus, that's too much." "It's not enough," he said. "You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Let me believe in you." I kissed him as the fireworks reached their peak, colors exploding above us. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you too," he said, smiling against my lips. "Happy New Year, Jamie." "Happy New Year, Marcus." "To new beginnings," he said. "To new beginnings," I echoed, "and to sleeping with the door open." He laughed, "Always sleeping with the door open." Months later, I stood in a Chelsea art gallery for my first solo exhibition, Becoming. Every painting told a piece of our story, transformation, identity, love. The centerpiece, the opening, showed two figures finally reaching for each other after existing in the same space for so long. Marcus moved through the crowd, proudly introducing himself as Jamie's boyfriend. My parents were there. His family was there, even his father standing quietly in the corner, but there. When our eyes met, he gave a small nod. It meant everything. Later, Marcus pulled me aside and said, "Remember when you painted the opening, you said it was about longing for something you couldn't have. I need a sequel." "What would it be about?" I asked. He smiled. "About what happens after they finally touch, about building a life together. We'll call it The Becoming, because that's what we're doing every day, becoming more ourselves." That night, back at our apartment, Marcus turned to me and said, "Our lease is up soon, we could find somewhere bigger, or maybe just a one-bedroom." "Our bedroom," I said, smiling. "Our bedroom," he repeated, pulling me close. That night Marcus slept with the door open. But this time I was right there beside him, no more distance, no more secrets. Just us. Becoming.